Niggas in my grill tryna phase me.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Mizu's Art School. Today is going to be the first video I'll be doing in a series covering the basics of art. So I've made an introduction on the basics of art. So you'll find that in the description below. Then today, let's get into today's work. Today we're going to be discussing gesture. Today is going to be part one of the gesture video, and I'll be doing a part two next week. So more specifically, what we are going to be discussing today is what is gesture, why you should study gesture, and how you can study gesture effectively, the things you should pay attention to when studying gesture, and the things that are not so important. So what is gesture? Gesture just simply describes the motion of a subject. It describes motion, and it can be found in pretty much everything, not just human beings, not just figures. You can find it in trees, mountains, pretty much everything in life. It describes the motion. We often confuse gesture with the contours of an object, but they are two very different things. So this is the gesture and this is the contour of this object, of this person. Contours describe the outer boundaries of the object, while gesture describes the general motion or the general flow of the object. Why is gesture so important? Stiffness. Most of our figure drawings end up looking stiff or looking like stickmen because we don't have gesture. Gesture is pretty much, especially in figure drawing, gesture is pretty much the backbone of figure drawing. It is the foundation that puts everything together. So by no means is gesture a complete figure drawing, but it is the baseline. It is what helps you know where to place everything so that you can create a believable figure that is looking real and not looking like stickman. So here is me drawing the same figure using gesture and not using gesture. Down to some do's and don'ts in gesture. Things you should remember is your gesture should tell a story. Like, what is the person in figure drawing, for example? What is the person doing? What is he about to do? What did he just do? What is he feeling? All those things. Like, when you draw a gesture, you should be able to send that message. That is the point. That is the whole point of gesture. Not the details, not the veins, not the muscles and everything you're putting on it. You should just be able to look at it and understand what is going on there. Proportions are not too important when discussing gesture. So just lighten up a little, like be free when exploring with gesture. Like I said before, what's important is that you're able to tell a story. The longest axis. Another thing you need to look for when approaching gesture is the longest axis. It's a single line or curve that runs through the entire figure and can define the general motion. Most figures don't have this long axis. Some of them have more than one, maybe two or three, defining the motion of the figure. But there's usually a major line. The major line that defines the motion is called the line of action. The line of action is usually the longest line and defines most of the motion in the figure. So CSI, generally when approaching gesture, you should be thinking in a series of C curves, S curves, or I curves, or I say I curves, straight lines. So C and S curves are used when you are trying to define a flowing motion. The motion is very gentle and flowing. Then the more you compress the S curve, the more it shows tension. The more tension it is able to show. So with further compression, you can just exaggerate this, show this as a zigzag. Another thing, when approaching a gesture, try avoid scratchy or chicken lines. Let your lines be flowy. Even if it looks messy, let them look flowy in general. Gesture is actually one of the fun parts of learning the basics of how to draw, because it gives you a lot of freedom. You don't have to be thinking of letting the image look beautiful or anything. The important thing, like I've repeated only God knows how many times in this video, is story. Just let whoever that is looking at your gesture, or if you can look at your gesture and you can understand what is going on, what the person is doing, what is about to do, what is feeling, like I said before. So some effective ways to practice gesture include, so how to practice gesture, what I would advise you to do is to go to Pinterest and download a bunch of figure references. Just type in figure references and make sure they are wearing as little clothes as possible so that I can really get their body motion. You can get the ones with clothes too, but if you want to study figure drawing, you can let them be wearing all these skin tight clothes or something. I don't think you can find actual model images on Pinterest. So get a bunch of them and do 30 seconds. You can do from 5, 10 time limits you can use for gesture. You can do 5 seconds gesture, just really quick lines to capture the motion of the pose. Then you can do 10 seconds gesture. You can add a little more volume to the gesture, and you can do 1 minute gesture. It doesn't actually matter how long you take on gesture, as long as you understand what you are doing and you're able to capture the motion, you're able to capture what is going on, you're able to tell a story with your gesture. So in my next video, I'll be showing you different methods people use and how different methods people use in practicing gesture. So you pick the one you like best and the one that is more interesting for you to do. So just remember to have fun in the process. Fun, like I said before in my last video, fun is a very good factor, is a very important factor in doing art. And there are even some artists that draw gesture. Their art is based entirely on gesture, like this guy I found on Instagram. I can't remember his name, but I'll put the image of his work in this video. So just have fun with gesture and be free with yourself. Gesture is a very loose aspect of drawing. So see you guys next week. Peace out.
Waste your time.